things that I always gravitate towards is storytelling. And obviously things are bad, and we are having deaths right now happening because of this disease within the United States and globally. But what are some inspiring stories that you have heard from your clients and how they're being resilient in these difficult times? And I want to start, maybe go back to Wes here on this one. And is there a story? And again, we try to be confidential with all of our clients here, but is there just an activity somebody's doing that has kind of given you a little bit of glimpse of hope of maybe there's silver linings to what we're doing, especially in shelter in place?
I think there's a variety of things that I've heard from clients that in very particularly. I mean, I have a client that is a doctor, works in a lab up here in Massachusetts, and his lab actually just came out with the first immunization test that's going to be used in hospitals. And this individual's in his 70s and has been going to work every day from the beginning and taking great risks to do that. And so there's exciting things like that. Then you hear from other clients little things that to me are more community related, about people who are still continuing to pay their housekeepers or pay their dog walkers or or help other people in the community, even though they're not providing services. I'm trying to kind of keep the economy going. So I feel like in general, what I've been hearing from my clients is a general sense of togetherness in this. And obviously that's in the small community, and then you branch it way out to the country and then to the globe. One of the unique things about this too, AJ was saying it's unique because it's a physical ailment, is also that we're all in this together. I mean, every corner of the globe. And so I think in many ways that's brought out the best in people. And I think we've certainly seen that in our client base. And I would just add, Ben, that I'm also proud of the way our clients have responded, even just from the financial side. And I've heard many of the same things of people saying, hey, I've got some extra cash on the sideline. Is that better? Not necessarily to put back in the market, but is that better for me to use right now in retirement than to be taking out of my account and drawing down at a negative time? Yes, let's think about stuff like that. So I think people have been very resilient in that regard and have really come together. And I've seen it pretty far and wide across our client base.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that too. Is one thing that has been pretty unique to this situation, which I don't know, has made me feel real good. Is one is people call you and they just go, "I know you're really busy, right? And I know, can I just have 5 minutes of your time?" And you give them 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And they are just so appreciative that, I know you're just very busy with everything that's going on in life, and you're trying to counsel everybody, and you're taking time for me right now. That's been a really great message to hear. But the second is they say, how are you doing? Right? Is that you have that relationship with your client and they actually want to go, I'm concerned about you though, is, man, that's going to be tough hearing all of this feedback from people of, hey, things are bad and what's going to, and you absorbing that all the time. So it's been kind of nice is to hear the personal concern, which I know in our role, but we're not at the medicine front line. We're not we're all sheltering in place here. So that's kind of an interesting it's been different than I've ever received in kind of other markets as well. Chris, at this point, can I send it over to you in terms of any stories that you have there in terms of things that have inspired you, particularly in the last maybe 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think the most inspiring thing for me is that none of my clients, I guess, I don't know if that's the way to represent it. Everyone has heeded the advice, as Wes put it, we're all in this together, to stay at home, and it's all we can do to combat this virus. I don't know firsthand any of the individuals that are on the front line fighting it at the hospitals, but God bless them. But it's really heartwarming to know that all of my clients and then my immediate community is heeding the advice to stay at home and working together to fight this virus.
Great. AJ, I'll switch it to you for a second. Anything you'd like to add in terms of a story you've heard?
Yeah, well, it's the common refrain that people using technology to stay in touch and connect like never before. This couldn't have happened at a better time in human history, actually. When we're example today, we're all looking at each other, and we can connect in a way that we never could have before. Families are doing this from nursing homes and all over the globe. It's just an amazing time. So, technology is more involved in people's lives than it's ever been. And it's been pretty great.
And it's kind of easy enough that, or it's gotten to the point that it's easy enough to operate. I know all of us have challenges even today. You're trying to get it set up, and Curtis and I are trying to work through bugs and how do you do this and how do you do that. And it's just something that, we're all learning, and we all have patience towards it too. That, we have clients that are saying, hey, I'd like to try it, and I'd like to try this video thing. And can you take a second and teach me how to do it? Let's do it. Let's kind of figure this out. Because for us, hey, we want to make sure we're just meeting those needs and those clients there. Larry, I'll throw it to you in terms of obviously different, maybe a little bit of a different market rate in your community there. Any inspiring stories? Because I know in North Carolina where you're at, you went through a pretty big hurricane that was in 2019, right? So you already had a community banding together, especially for a new community for you of putting people in. So you've kind of maybe already had a little bit of cohesion that's happened. So how has your community kind of reacted here after that natural disaster in 2019?
It's been amazing. I don't know how else to describe it. When Florence came through a little while ago, we didn't expect her to stay. First of all, we didn't expect her to behave as a hurricane like she did, to come and park for 3 days with 120 or 130 mile an hour winds and 30 inches of rain and no forward momentum. And that changed life here in Eastern Carolina. It would be the same thing as if it happened in Eastern Maine. There's a lot of similarities demographically and geographically to Eastern North Carolina and Eastern Maine. To kind of put it in that perspective. So we already had a community of Eastern Carolina working hard to try to put life back together. And I'm working on some projects here. There are still homes with no electricity. It's hard to believe that they have no electricity yet, or they have no roofs on yet, or they have no repairs to the inside because there are not enough craftsmen available to do all the work you need to rewire, replumb, rebuild houses. And so you have a lot of yokels like me out there trying to help a little bit, but we really don't know what we're doing. So we can tear things apart, but you need somebody specialized to put them back together again. And there was a lot of hunger that came about because a number of people were displaced in that hurricane. So along comes this virus situation, and you have people working even harder. I was working on that project this morning, rounding up some food for our food bank. I'm sure it's the same in Eastern Maine as it is here. You have small food banks or small food pantries that are trying hard to feed people from almost 2 years ago, and are still working on that project. And now you have people who are displaced because we're shutting our economy down. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's not a political statement. It's just a reality of what's happening. Our economy is shutting down. And you have a lot of people with no place to turn. And so the food banks are under great duress because they don't have food from the supermarkets that usually send it to them every day. You don't have it from restaurants who usually send it to them every day. You don't have as many people working, so they're not making contributions like they did. And the demand is up 60% in 4 weeks, guys. It was up 60%. Contributions are down almost a corresponding number. Talk about a situation. But what's happening is we're finding is that other people are starting to step up. A lot of information going out on local news, a lot of phone calls being made, and a lot of people who haven't participated in the past or didn't realize the problem was as large as it is, are stepping up. So that's really a good thing. And I know that if it happened in Eastern Maine, not to leave the Boston guys out, but Maine's what I know, okay? That people would do the same thing there. You just step up to the plate. So that's an interesting situation that's evolving. But the other thing is with our clients. I have been on the phone. Abby knows because I'm almost sending her a note or calling her and saying, "Hey, just talk to everybody, and here's where we are." Um, Clients really appreciate the phone calls right now, and I know you all know that. Um, and I always want to tell them a little bit about what's going on with their account, Ben, and what you're doing with investments, or what Abby's been doing with projects she's responsible for. And they appreciate that, but they want to blow by that, and they want to know, so how is Ben? How's he doing? How's his family? Is everybody okay? How's Abby doing? They know that she's still considered a newlywed by most of them, because I have older clients, so Abby's a newlywed in their eyes. How is she doing? How's her husband? Are they okay? What about the rest of your crew? And they really, really want to make sure that everybody is healthy and in a safe space, and that we're going to make it through. That we're just not calling them to stay in touch and to build up their esprit de corps, but they really want to know that Guidance Point is in the form of all of you folks is okay. And that's something new. I've never seen that in 45 years.
Yeah, and that's pretty special in terms of just, again, having really great relationships with clients. And you know, in terms of how do you quantify whether you have a good relationship with a client, is you feel that caring, right? As you kind of, you give it, right? And you give that caring to them, and you're thinking about them. In AJ, I'll steal his term, is that you kind of think about your client more than sometimes they can think about themselves, and you care for them, maybe when they're not even thinking or caring about themselves. So I think that's just a level of care, and in these times you receive that back, even when they're maybe more heightened and more scared than they probably ever been in some ways. So it's been a pretty nice outtake there.